it wouldn't have come to light about everything going on. People listening right now, do you mind just kind of explaining real quick what MK Ultra was and everything?
So MK Ultra was a secret program run by the CIA. It began in 1952 under Allen Dulles, who was the head of the CIA. And it was a response to what the CIA believed was being done by the Soviets. They were brainwashing people using drugs, primarily LSD, but other drugs too, and hypnosis to try to create Manchurian candidates, which were people who could be programmed to kill and be amnesic of their programming, and sometimes even be amnesic of any act they did. And what the CIA feared was that they needed to have some kind of defense of this happening, especially to Americans who were captured, and there were a bunch of prisoners of war who were captured in Korea in the early 50s, and all of them not all of them, but a bunch of them made statements that we had been breaking the I forget what the code is called, but the International War Code by using germ warfare on the Koreans during the Korean War. And the government said they were brainwashed. This is a little bit in the book, but that's another area I want to go into more if we do a second book. I'm convinced now that they were actually telling the truth, and we brainwashed them when they came back to say that they'd been brainwashed because West actually was the one who handled. He was one of the doctors who handled them when they came back. I'm not the first one to say that. It's, even the Times has written recently that there's so much evidence we use germ warfare over there. So that program was supposed to be defensive, but it was offensive.
Yeah.
They wanted, if they could do it, the Soviets and the Chinese, we needed to know how to do it and do it better. So from about 52, 53 to 72, 73, it was the most expensive operation the CIA had. They spent more money on it, and they hired academics, and they hired private researchers to test drugs, hypnosis, all kinds of different, sleep deprivation on people. Often, if they were doctors, they're patients without their knowledge. Yeah. They set up safe houses in cities like San Francisco and New York, where they would get prostitutes to lure Johns into the apartments that had two-way mirrors, and the prostitutes would dose the Johns with LSD, and they'd study their behavior, see what the prostitutes could get them to do, and the prostitutes were not real, they were agents.
Oh, shit. That's correct. Yeah.
And
what a job.
That was called Midnight Climax.
Yeah.
And West was one of these doctors. Mm-hmm. So in 72, 73, at the height of Watergate, and this might be in the weeds, but Richard Helms, who then ran the CIA and had been running MK Ultra since 52, 53 under Dulles, but he later became the director, he was indicted for perjury, and he was implicated in a bunch of Watergate stuff, so he had to leave the agency. And when he left, he also, Sidney Gottlieb, who ran the scientific branch of MK Ultra, left with him, and before they left, they destroyed all the records. So to this day, we really have no idea how much was done beyond what was found, and that was a couple years later. Someone within the agency at the State Department knew that there were financial records that were kept in a warehouse, and he got them out so we could see how much money was spent and where it was spent and at what institutions, but there was no record of the experiments, what they achieved, who they did it to, who the patients were, until I found the West records. They're the most comprehensive that exists to this day, because these two guys destroyed everything else.